The Untold History, a podcast by the Hispanic Council with the collaboration of the Spanish Ministry of Defense to get to know great Spanish figures in the history of the United States. Today, Salvador Fidalgo. Salvador Fidalgo y Lope Garcia was born on August 6, 1756, in Seo de Urgell. At that time, the Catalan Pyrenees were filled with brown bears. It is very likely that Salvador saw more than one during his childhood and youth. If so, he had not seen anything yet. An adult Iberian brown bear can weigh up to 250 kilograms, which is quite far from the brown bear on Kodiak Island, Alaska. As the largest carnivore on Earth, it can reach 750 kilograms and measure about 3 meters when standing upright. That is 3 times as long as those Salvador could see in his homeland. One would have to imagine the face of our protagonist when, on his journey through Alaska, he encountered such a giant. Salvador's family was of Basque origin. Although the reasons that brought his family to Alt Urgell are unknown, it is believed that his parents had some kind of commerce concession from the crown, which made them choose that location for their residence. Fidalgo chose a military career, concretely in the Navy, and he joined the Real Colegio de Guardiamarinas in Cádiz in the year 1770. He graduated 5 years later as a midshipman. He was chosen as a member of the cartography team of Vicente Tofiño, author of the first atlas of the ports of Spain. Afterwards, he had some motley postings. He served in Europe and the Mediterranean. During his European phase, in the context of the American Revolution, he served in a convoy of a French fleet. He fought the British in Algeciras, and he even reached Constantinople while returning a Turkish ambassador to his home. Previously, he had been on service in South America, where he distinguished himself by his actions against the Portuguese in 1776. His later participation in the expedition of 1783-84 to map the Mediterranean Sea probably gave him the necessary expertise for the work he would do in Nueva España. In 1778, he was promoted to ship lieutenant, and he was sent to the naval station of San Blas in the Mexican Pacific coast. He left on May 29th, and he would never return to his homeland. He was destined to travel, explore, found, and give Spanish names to places further to the north than any of his countrymen had ever gone. During those years, the interest over the west coast of North America was increasing, and it had been amplified by the presence of Russian detachments that facilitated commerce with Asia, especially in furs. On the other hand, Madrid feared that the Russian presence could become permanent, impeding its exploitation of those lands. For that reason, since 1774, there had been numerous expeditions backed by the Spanish monarchy which had explored and took possession of those territories. They also founded San Lorenzo de Nootka, a city that depended on the viceroyalty of New Spain, in what today is Vancouver. Fidalgo's first assignment was accompanying Francisco de Elisa, whose expedition left on February 3, 1790, to Nootka. From there, he would continue on for his reconnaissance of the Prince William Sound and Cook Inlet sites. The expedition was also of interest to the Viceroy of New Spain, the Count de Rivera-Gijedo, who, for some time, and with commerce as his main objective, had wanted to explore the highlands of the North American Pacific. Aboard the brigantine San Carlos, Salvador broke away from the main party and continued his coasting through Alaska. A few weeks later, and without finding any Russian settlement, he disembarked at the mouth of the Copper River, founding a city that still bears the name of Córdoba. This is how Fidalgo named it, in honor of the then director of the Spanish Navy, while erecting a large wooden cross. Fidalgo continued northward, wishing to discover the coast's limits, and took possession of the shore, leaving a trail of Spanish names, many of which are now lost, such as the ports of Gravina, Masaredo, and Revilla-Gijedo. On June 15th, they reached an inlet with a port, which they seized and called Puerto Valdez. Shortly thereafter, on July 4th, he was finally able to find and make contact with a Russian colony on the southeastern tip of the Kenai Peninsula. This was but a small detachment, dependent on the main and larger settlement on Kodiak Island. It was there that the establishment of a trade agreement with the Russians finally took shape, of which there is evidence in the accounting records of the Viceroyalty of New Spain, which show a growing interest of the Spanish crown in the fur trade and its dispatch both to Europe and to the East aboard the Manila galleon. The barter came to be substantiated by exchanging the furs for sheets of copper, which apparently was a scarce and highly appreciated raw material in Russia. In November, he returned to San Blas, ending his first voyage. A little more than a year later, in 1792, Fidalgo was entrusted with the establishment of a Spanish post at Núñez Gaona Bay, on the southwest coast of the Strait of Juan de Fuca, present-day Washington State. He arrived from San Blas on the corvette La Princesa on May 28, 1792. The context of this new settlement was framed in the negotiations between Spain and Great Britain as a result of the so-called Nootka Crisis, the umpteenth conflict between the two countries in which, finally, weapons were exchanged by a peace deal, the First Nootka Convention. The treaty included fundamental and detailed commercial solutions to the dispute, but was not so explicit and exhaustive regarding territorial issues. Thus, it was not clear whether the existing Spanish post in Nootka Sound should be ceded to the British, and Fidalgo's task was to prepare for its possible relocation. On an opposite note, rifles were drawn during the fall of 1792. This time, it was not against the British, but aimed at the Macá Indians. Fidalgo's second-in-command, the pilot Antonio Cervantes, had been killed by members of this tribe, and in retaliation, Fidalgo ordered an attack against them, causing many casualties. Despite his unbribable and determined service to the crown, Salvador always had the chivalry to treat with deference those who represented different interests. This was the case with the explorer George Vancouver, with whom he was united by a long-distance friendship and the exchange of data, coordinates, and maps. Many of these were passed by Vancouver directly to the English Admiralty, with their toponymy in Spanish, which is perhaps the reason why the names have endured. In 1794, Fidalgo was promoted to frigate captain and assigned to more southern latitudes, such as Argentina and California, where he had to suppress a native revolt on Tiburon Island. Not long after, the Spanish government, more intent on making war on the new French Revolutionary Republic, gave up Alaska and all its possessions in the area to Great Britain. In 1795, the Spanish flag was lowered from the fort of San Miguel de Nootka. Salvador Fidalgo, the man who gave Spanish names to the lands inhabited by giant bears, died in Tacubaya, Mexico on September 27, 1803. Today, a small island off the coast of Washington State is named after him.